I am really excited about my next guest, who is my sister, my friend. She fills me with so much wisdom, but also makes me laugh. She's just an awesome person, and I don't think folks put enough respect on her name because she's been part of this work for a long, long, long time. Um, I want to introduce Liz Lagunai, Medicine Crow from the First Alaskan Institute and also from TRHT Alaska. Um, Welcome again. It's really happy to see you, Liz. Tell us where you are calling in from, and tell us about your homeland.
Yeah, Casey, talk. Good morning. My name is Lagunai. I want to make sure to introduce myself correctly. And for my brother Jerry, I'm just so excited to be here with you. And good morning, everyone. In my Tlingit language, we say yak e sutat, good morning. And I'm here at home in my village, Cake, Alaska on the map. And what you hear in the background is my father getting the wood fire started. So he's chopping some kindling, and it always
That's
seems to coincide when I'm actually talking. So I don't know how that happens in the universe,
nice.
but
So
that's
Liz,
just
can you
like, right?
Laguna, can you tell us? Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Laguna, can you tell us a little bit about the work that the First Alaskan Institute does?
Yeah, sure. So just to place some context here, I'm Tlingit and Haida. I'm from Southeast Alaska. I live in my village of Tijuan, which is the village that never sleeps. On the map, it's Kake, Cake, Alaska. And I work for First Alaskans Institute, which is a statewide Alaska Native nonprofit. We're also an operating foundation. And our vision for our work is progress for the next 10,000 years. And so our connection to TRHT is, well, quite frankly, just as old as the beginnings of this country.
Hmm.
And we've been working towards it for quite some time. And the direction that we went in Alaska was guided by our community, by our people across the state, our Native people, and other Alaskans who saw the need and understood the direct consequences of not pursuing something that centers racial healing and transformation. So that's kind of a very short overview of how we ended up as a place lead for the Truth, Racial Healing Transformation Endeavor in Alaska. And it started for us um, long before then. And our people had been calling for a truth and reconciliation process for decades, decades. And and as Heather just stated, it's a false narrative because in order to reconcile, you would have had to have started with good relationships and then work to restore them. But that was never the history of this country or this state here in Alaska.
That's right.
And so instead of centering a false narrative, we've centered something that we are envisioning, something that we are working towards, and that is to create a place for truth telling, for righting wrongs, for intergenerational healing, and to transform these systems that have been created to operate the way they are. I mean, they're doing what they're supposed to do. There's not, you can't fix them. They're
Mm.
constructed the way they are to work and have the outcome they have. So we have to do the work of creating what we want. And the only way we can do that is to have the hard conversations and work together to try to figure out what that actually looks like. In the vacuum of inequity, what do we want to create? And that's where a lot of our energy and focus is also spent, um, to repair the damage that has been done to our humanity. That's all of our work, and that's the place that we're getting towards together. So I just want to say how for um, bringing me here to spend a few minutes with you. I am um, uh, such a huge supporter of the work that Jerry and the crew are doing in Dallas, having had the chance to visit and to be inspired by your work, and then think about what that could look like or what it means up here in Alaska. So again, thank you so much, and congratulations to your graduating cohort. That's pretty exciting work.
Thank you so much for that. And we also remain very inspired by you all. So much so that after we visited, the First Alaskan Institute and TRHT Alaska and Nome, just experienced not only amazement and wonder at Alaska that we um, were like I always say they lied to us in the history books about what Alaska is, but also understood the intergenerational work that you all were also doing. And I was invited back to Fairbanks to attend the Elders and Youth Conference because you talked about this tactic of intergenerational healing, which is not just a tactic, but it's also a way of life of people indigenous to your land and people indigenous to this land. So can you talk more about the whole concept of elders and youth being together in a healing place? I actually experienced it, and I experienced a lot of healing happening. I remember when the elders were watching the cartoon and experiencing this heartfelt pour out of emotions that they experience just by watching this youthful story, right, with the young people sitting at the table with them and then sharing those stories. So talk about intergenerational healing and particularly the Elders and Youth Conference as a way to do that.
Yeah, goodness, geez, that what you got me a little emotional there, just going back in that memory because you're referring to the Molly of Denali
Molly of
cartoon.
Denali, yes, which is a great PBS cartoon, by the way. Yeah, I gotta check it out.
Yeah, it's so exciting. It's the first national cartoon that features a native character as a lead, a little girl named Molly. And they tackle all kinds of really important subjects and learning things within the context of the show. And the one that Jerry's referring to was about boarding schools and its impact on our people. And it was told through the lens of the rediscovery of culture, of a grandfather who had given up his drum because he wasn't allowed to sing his songs or speak his language. And so he had given up his songs. And that is something really central to all of us, right? And so Molly goes on this adventure to find her grandfather's drum, not knowing any of the history. And then she learns about it along the way. And she gives her grandfather's drum back to him. And at the end, her and her friend are singing and dancing their cultural songs, and her grandfather gets his songs back. And it's just this really moving, intense show, for
Very
such
intense. Very moving.
intense and moving. And we had the panel of folks who'd worked on creating it, and to hear Luke Titus, who was the elder, talk about the need for us to create spaces where we can heal collectively. Now, the way that happens isn't just in a Western modality kind of process. It's by being together. It's by sharing knowledge and wisdom about having people have the ability to listen to your stories. Our oral history is so important and critical to our health and our well-being. Of being able to dance and sing, of being able to have ceremony together and grieve together. To know how to grieve healthy is a huge step in our healing process generationally. And our cultural paradigms, which have existed for over 10,000 years, are still with us. And as long as we're still operating them, and we can operationalize them within our context today, in our structures. We've been indigenizing our elders and youth conference for, since we took it over about 16 years ago, and we place in the center our elders and our youth, and the healing that comes from just lifting up who they are and celebrating everything about them, celebrating all the ways they identify, celebrating all the issues they care about, amplifying their voice, letting them be seen and heard. All of those things are what contributes to their healing. It's not something that we are doing that is prescriptive. It's something that our ancestors have told us and shown us for so long, which is together we are our medicine. Together we can do this. For each and every one of us coming together and sharing those spaces where there is pain, we don't have to do that in isolation. And in fact, it's better for us if we do it together as a community. And so that's really what's central to Elders and Youth Conferences, that the medicine that we experience is by our togetherness and our ability to actually manifest the things that we love. And I would say that one of the things that we try to do as the stewards of the conference is we try to follow the lead of our people, our elders and our young people, what they care about. Each year they tell us what they want more of. And you know what it is? No surprise. More of us, more of everything that we are as Native people. And giving them the ability to have more hands-on engagement with us. Less big time speakers, less PowerPoint presentations, but more actual cultural engagement.
Mm-hmm. No, that's good. That's good. I have to give a shout out to one of my favorites, Colleen. So if you see her again or hear from her, tell her that I love her and I miss her. But Colleen helped me understand like that, like this struggle for just justice and healing and peace is also like it's something that doesn't know boundaries. Colleen is um, she's just a spitfire. When I met her, I saw myself in a person. And what she was talking about was going against police brutality in her neighborhood. She was talking about being tough and standing up for her land. Like she sounded like me, but in the body of this, less than 5 foot, elder woman who is like stronger than all of us. And I realized that our solidarity is just the most important, but it's also accountability. And you said something to me probably yesterday that really struck with me. And you talked about how when you are, talking to government officials and folks who have harmed, particularly your people and other people who are still fighting against racism, that they have to listen and also be introspective when folks are sharing with them, and then they have to sit with that. Can you explain the accountability work that you all are doing in Alaska and how that can produce some healing for our communities?
Yeah. So in our TRHT up in Alaska, we're centering the majority of our focus on creating tribunals. And, the pandemic, of course, has interrupted so much, but, these tribunals are places where we're creating a space where we've been meeting with our Native healers now for about 2 years, getting their guidance on how to create a space for healing, and also our community on what it is that they would like to see in this process and what it is they'd like to see as an outcome. And so we've been carefully crafting what a place for our people's healing could be like in a place of truth telling, because we want to be respectful of people's stories and know that there's so much pain in those stories, and so we need to know how to take care of them, to be a good host, to be a good community member, If we're going to invite you in to share your truth, we want to make sure that we have support there for you, that we've done what we can to create an atmosphere and a spirit-filled place so that your truth can be heard. And so we've crafted these tribunal spaces designed by Native people for Native people and other peoples of color to be able to come in and share their testimony. And so for us, by us, about us. And a component of that is, aside from the folks who are coming to testify, we also have a role called an accountability partner. And the accountability partner is a representative of a system, an institution, an organization, an agency, a church, schools, private social groups, individuals, people who are at a place where they're willing to say, there is a legacy, a historical legacy attached to my ability to be here now and to be doing what I'm doing here. What is that legacy? And so they have the opportunity to say, I want to be an accountability partner, which means that they're going to come to these tribunals and they're going to deeply listen to the testimony. The testimony and the people who are coming are the central focus. The accountability folks are there to provide and bear witness and to listen deeply to these testimonies. And their central job in the listening of those stories is to start to think about the legacy of who they are, of what they do, and how that came to be. So their job is not to examine the truthfulness or the validity of this testimony that's being offered. Their job is to listen and to help think through how it is these things came to be and how it shows up or is present in the history and legacy and contemporary times of who they are. And then after that deep listening, coming back together with some of these folks who provided testimony, other participants who've been invited to bear witness, coming back together to then start to think through, well, what is it that we want this legacy to be? And then to craft what that future legacy, that transformational legacy will be amongst community and with the other people who are involved in sharing their truths and in shaping what we want to see in our communities. And part of the process for preparing our accountability partners is a training that we do ahead of the tribunal. And during this training, really, lifting folks up so that they can understand what we're really asking them to do. We just had our first one, and it was a trial run for us too, because we had to adjust for being virtual. And so we wanted them to listen to about 6 hours of testimony and to listen deeply, to stay engaged. And when they're experiencing listening to these stories, to also be self-regulating, to be self-analyzing. What are they feeling? When did they get angry? Did they get upset? Did they get sad? Did they feel joy? To kind of do that internal checking on what it is that their experience as they're hearing and what is it that they're learning through these testimonies. And one of our central values as Native people is that our experiences are truth. And this is a shared value of Native people. And so your validity of my truth is not important because it's my truth, right? And so getting our accountability partners to understand that is part of the training so that they can really hear and then be able to apply those deep lessons over a period of time where they're marinating on it, which is kind of where we are now. They're marinating on it, and then we'll come back together and start to really kind of flesh out together what did we experience collectively, and then how do we get to where we want to go.
That's beautiful. Another core value that I learned while being in Alaska with you all was the core value of joy and having fun. So, as our closing question or comment, um, why is joy so important to your people? I just remember uh, them opening up their homes. Just very thankful again. I remain thankful. I actually follow me and Colleen follow each other on Instagram. So, but I just remain thankful of the way that they open their homes, but also the way that you know it was very serious work that's happening, but also very joyous work and family work. So please share that. Why joy is important in this work.
Mm. Yeah, it's one of our central values, but it's also one of our central survival mechanisms, right? Even one of our core agreements is um, our value of humor helps us, and so we have created engagements that include ceremony and include celebration. Because if we can't do those two things together, then we're missing core elements of our healing, because our medicine is wound up in our joy and in our grieving, and we have to create the space for both of those. And so that's a ceremonial aspect of so many of our cultures interweaves the kind of the serious and somber and really areas, especially on things around grief and grieving and mourning. Those things are directly threaded with celebration and joy. And one of our other deeply held core values statewide as Native people is is family and taking care of each other. And so we talk a lot about being good relatives, and so we have to have fun. And if we can't have fun together, then there's something awry in our relationship. It's a,
Yes.
it's a red flag. Yeah. And we even tell policymakers that we're working with, and they're trying, and when we train them on how to work with our communities, we let them know that if you're getting called Mr. or Mrs. in our village, if people are treating you very formally, it's a good indication that something's wrong. Like, you better check
Mhm.
yourself, because you're doing something that's indicating you're not to be trusted. And so you're
Yeah,
getting this really cold reception. Now, on general, that's not how we are. As you experienced, Jerry, our people are
for sure.
super welcoming, and they want to give you the best. They want to give you all their best food. They want to
Hmm.
share their best stories with you.
Hmm.
And they want to make sure you're taken care of. So, um, those are central to who we are. That's part of our medicine. That's part of what makes us sacred people, is how we take care of each other. So that's something that's absolutely important. I mean, we try to make everything fun.
Thank you for being with us, Laguna. I can't wait to talk to you. We will be on a SOCAP panel about TRHT later on today. So if you all are attending the SOCAP conference, look out for us later on today. Thank you so much for being with us and waking up early for us. We really appreciate you and love you.